Hello and welcome back to the Get Sculpted podcast. It is Coach T here, and I'm in here for a solo episode, one that I'm excited about because I will be recapping some of my competing journey that I did last year in 2025 and just my journey with my own body composition and fitness over the past couple years. Because even though I've been doing this for quite some time, I've been working out since I was like in my teens, but like training properly, let's say in the last decade or so, I've evolved for sure and continue to evolve, which we all should. So I'm pumped. We're going to be talking about how we can apply this for you as well, how you can raise your metabolic capacity, and specifically what my post prep journey has taught me about eating more, building more muscle, and actually being able to stay in shape and stay lean all the time. So let's dive in. Now, to start, I was staying quite lean and muscular, and I was in, I would say, my best shape at the time in 2023. And then 2024, I spent a lot of that year dieting and on low calories because I know that I had at least one or two photo shoots, and then I just had back-to-back lean outs. Like in hindsight, most of that year was not spent building muscle. And actually, that's kind of when I started looking a little bit softer and the scale crept up a little bit. Nothing major, but like, let's say in 2023, when I was at like my like lean peak shape at the time, I was probably in like the mid to low 130s, where I was in the high 130s in 2024 and just kind of looked softer overall. So I was putting in the same grind, if not more, because I was always trying to lean out. And I just wasn't seeing my physique look the way that I wanted or to my standard or what I felt like it should be at because I was putting in a lot of grind. So I was tightening things up even more. I actually hired two coaches in that year, I believe. I think one was at the end of 2023, and that didn't go super well, to be honest, because I hired a coach because I'm always a believer that every coach needs a coach. And I wanted an extra push to lean out at the time. And that's kind of when that began. Like I started leaning out with that coach, and then that plan was just too restrictive. It wasn't a good fit. And then like sometime in 2024, I got another coach. Anyway, I spent a lot of that time dieting with kind of two new coaches. So the thing is, in hindsight now, because hindsight's 2020, starting with a coach, if you say, hey, I want to lean out, they don't have a background of working with you of like exactly how much you've eaten and for how long. So there was no background with either of those coaches about like what were your maintenance calories. It was like, hey, let's put you in a deficit. So yeah, that was kind of what I spent most of 2024 doing. And then I decided at the end of 2024, I really was thinking about competing again. I think that in hindsight, I wanted to take my physique to the next level. Yes. In my mind, I felt like, okay, I got to get back to like being really lean. And that's what I'm missing right now. Like being really, really lean is what I need. Because the truth is, if I'm being totally honest, which I always aim to be here, I felt like, gosh, my whole life, I've never really been as lean as I wanted. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not complaining about what I've achieved with my physique. I've certainly been happy with and am proud of my physique. And I'm happy with what I've achieved, but I felt like I've never really been like ripped and shredded. And I want to see what my body can do when I get there. And I felt like, okay, I'm in a place where like the last time I competed was 2014, 2015. And that was before kids. I was even vegan at the time. It was like a totally different approach. It was just extremely restrictive. I didn't have a lot of muscle. So I felt like, okay, I could do this right and I could do it better. So that's what pushed me to get into a prep. And then I reached out to a coach she's my coach at the moment. We're actually winding down right now because she has taken me through a full like reverse diet. And we're going to talk about all that in this episode. But I was with her for about like 14 months. And then when I came to her, I liked her because she didn't say, let's start with a lean out. She said, great, you want to prep? I want to stick with you for bringing you into a consistent maintenance before we cut, which in hindsight, like I never did that before, definitely not with a coach. If I came to a coach in the past and was like, I want to go in a deficit, they're like, okay, great, here's your calorie deficit. And yeah, like I knew how to grind that way. And I see this in a lot of my clients too, where it's like, okay, cutting calories, sure, I could do that. I could do the calorie deficit, but you need to like earn that. And that's really what I learned early on. So from like January of 2025, last year, I worked with my coach through like April on just staying in a maintenance intake. And just stabilizing my calories and just not cutting yet. So I was consistently, I think, working up to like 2,100, and that was keeping me quite full at the time. So we kind of stayed there. I mean, I was always training hard in the gym. Don't get it twisted. I never have a period where I'm not training hard in the gym. My husband was like, you know, Tijana, even when you're lifting light, you're lifting heavy. So that doesn't change. Yeah. Anyway, the food. worked up my calories, and then in April of last year, I began my first cut for my first show. And my body was actually responding pretty well. Like I was at probably 17 or 1800 calories. And at the time, that was never my cutting calories. Like my cutting calories were always like 1600. And I had it in my mind that like, oh, you just have the calories you cut on. Like I just always am going to cut at 1600 and get down to 1400. It's just what I do. It's just what I needed to do in the previous year. And even, in 2024, it was always kind of like, the whole year was like 1600 calories. Anyway, I digress. 1700, 1800, I was cutting last April after building up my maintenance with my coach. Things were going well. We upped my cardio near the end of my first prep. So I did one show, which was in August. And then near the end, in terms of how far prep goes, it didn't get that crazy. And I thought I came in like, I felt like $1,000,000, but the feedback that they gave me, the judges, was like, you're very far off conditioning. They were like, you're like 7 or 8 weeks far off. I mean, look, I couldn't tell you what I was doing at the end, but it wasn't anything crazy for a prep. In terms, the cardio I was doing was like brisk walking, and my calories I think were at like 1500 and no lower, so it was not that crazy. It was like an hour of like brisk walking a day at the end, where I was elevating my heart rate to like, I don't know, 120 or something like that, 115. So like moderate to low intensity cardio. And yeah, so anyway, I decided at that point with my coach, look, I'm already relatively lean. Let's push things further and aim for another show. And at the time, there was like a buffer of like, I don't know, like a month, I think. Yeah. Like it was August, that was my show. And then I think September, I started my lead out for a November show. So really, it was only a month buffer between this very low calorie, high cardio phase where I still hadn't really upped my calories a whole lot. I think it was at like 1600. And then I was cutting back down. So there was a period of that. And when I went into that second cut, that's really when things went sideways. That's when I started noticing that it was a lot harder. And near the end, what happened in the gist of it is I cut between September and November, and I got to like 1300 calories or so. And it was the cardio that really did me in. Oh my God, I was completely starving. And just to clarify, I do not blame my coach, and neither should you, because the reality is it was his first show, right? It was not just me cutting for my everyday life. This is not meant to be sustainable. A prep for a competition is anything but sustainable. So please understand that. But however, the grind I had to put in to get not even lean enough again was an indicator of some red flags of my body. So lost my period near the end for like 2 months. At the end and post show, I didn't get my period, or it was very irregular for a while. 1300 calories. I was up to 2 times a day cardio, where I was having a hard time elevating my heart rate because I could not push hard enough. I was trying to move those sticks on the elliptical, and I'm holding on and I'm trying to give all my might, but the might was not there. I was exhausted, and just after a while, you don't even get hungry because you're so depleted. Like anything like someone suggesting a walk would be absolutely exhausting for me. So it was a grind, let me tell you, and I still wasn't lean enough. What I want to share now in hindsight, now that I'm back to my healthy state, my periods are regular, my hunger signals are good. I thought I actually had a good understanding of metabolic capacity and what mine was before this, but through the process of my prep and my recovery and going through building my maintenance now, which I'm in a healthy place. And, I kind of fast forwarded because my last show was November and now we're in May. Now I understand how intentionally increasing food has changed how I feel and perform and show up, and what it really means and feels like to be in a metabolically healthy body. Because here's the thing, we often think of like your metabolism being unhealthy when you're overweight and obese. And it is unhealthy when you're overweight and obese because you're at risk of metabolic syndrome, where you're messing up your hormones in a whole different way. But that can also happen when you're underfueling and overtraining. And that's where I was. So today I want to talk about what metabolic capacity actually is, why so many women are unintentionally suppressing their metabolic capacity, and why eating less is not the way that you're going to upgrade it, and how we want to think about this different. Okay, let's break this down really simply. Metabolic capacity is not just like, okay, I'm going to have a fast metabolism. It's your actual ability to maintain a lean physique and be able to handle more food while maintaining a certain body fat level, certain shape, performance, how heavy you're lifting, how fast you're running, how well you're able to recover, how good you're feeling between that, healthy hormone functions. This is huge. And your energy output, like how much oomph do you have to your day? How much are you moving? And this is going to have an influence on your muscle mass, your training intensity, how hard you can train, how well you recover between that, your stress management, your sleep quality, your hormone health, and how much food you eat over time. So a lot of women think that success means being able to eat as little as possible, always being hungry, always being on that 1600 calories, and just kind of hovering around that calorie deficit, being in a constant calorie deficit. And let me just highlight one thing. Calorie deficit by definition means the number of calories you need to lose body fat or lose weight. And if you're eating 1600 calories and maintaining, that is a very low maintenance. It's just an indicator that your metabolism is slowed down and down regulated to the point that you're maintaining on something that used to be your deficit. And that's not what you want. You want a healthy, functioning metabolism. So signs that you have a metabolism that has down regulated beyond a healthy level. And I'm using careful language here. I don't want to say broken metabolism. I don't want to say anything that kind of indicates that your metabolism is not adaptable, because it's very adaptable. It's dynamic. So these are just symptoms that your metabolism is down-regulated or slow at the moment. Low food tolerance. Like, it means you feel like you just can't eat that much without regaining weight. And not just weight in the short term, not just like you eat more carbs in one day and the scale goes up. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about your maintenance intake is low, like truly low based on what you've been eating and tracking and what it should be. You have low recovery. You're always feeling kind of sore and tight, like your muscles just feel like they're not ready to go, or mentally you don't feel ready to go. That's also a sign of poor recovery, is mentally there's no oomph to train. You're just dragging your butt. You have a low output. You just can't lift heavy. It's really hard for you. It feels like a struggle bus every time you're training. You have low muscle. You're not putting on that lean muscle and you're trying to grind for it, but it's not happening. And you have constant fatigue. Like my example with the walks, like it's how it shows up in your day. So for example, like someone says, hey, you want to go for like an hour walk? If they said that to you right now, what would be your first thought? Would it be like, oh, an hour walk, my God? Or if you had the time, would you think, gosh, I would love to? I would just absolutely, that seems awesome. Just walking and talking. A food obsession, food noise. How much is food noise showing up for you? I know when I was surviving off the 1600 calories, I was thinking about food all the time. All the time. I went to bed thinking about food. I saw a bus with a picture of food on it and I was like, oh my God. I saw a name of a street that related to food. I saw like a persimmon street and I was like, oh my God, persimmons. I couldn't stop thinking about them. I would finish one meal and I was hungry again for the next one. These are signs that you need to eat more. Girl, food should not rule your life. You should eat and get on with your day. And of course, stalled progress. You're just not leaning out and you're feeling soft despite all that effort you're putting in. Your metabolism is not broken, it's underdeveloped. And the solution to this is not eating less and moving more. That's dumb advice. Let's talk about what you need to do. This is the dieting trap women fall into and that I've fallen into and that my clients have fallen into before coming to us. So years of chronic dieting, you go from challenge to lean out, and you're working with one coach on fat loss and then you take a break and never go into a true maintenance and you're not actually increasing your calories. You're either in fat loss or not in fat loss. You're always trying to lose that same 10 to 15 pounds. You've grinded and lost it, and every grind feels harder. You're always on track Monday to Thursday, and then Friday, the wine comes in, the meals get loose, and then you're starting over again. Cardio focused training. So you're doing things disguised as strength training, maybe like high reps or like a fitness app with 5-10 pound dumbbells and you're doing them for a burn. You're eating clean, but you're under fueling. So you're eating the right foods, but you're cutting carbs. You're always avoiding rice and only having cauliflower rice, which I like cauliflower rice, but it can't be your only carb source. It's not a carb source. It's just a freaking vegetable. You're cutting carbs and cutting foods. You're trying to stay small year round. You're trying to chase a number on the scale. And I'm guilty. My coach had me stop weighing myself for a while because I even was like, oh my God, the scale is at 142. I weighed myself the other day. And I Googled BMI and it said that I was 2 pounds away from being overweight. I'm in a healthy relationship with my body and the scale that I just chuckled and thought, that's funny. Like, I'm obviously not overweight because if I maybe didn't have any muscle, this weight would look very different. So I digress. This is where I was. And I just want you to know that if you're in this place, the scale does not rule who you are. Your progress is, for that matter. It not only shouldn't rule how you feel about yourself, but if you're trying to keep a magic number on the scale, is what I'm saying. That's not a good idea because when you're building lean muscle, the scale might increase. And a number you were once so afraid of could very well be the weight that your body feels and performs your best at and looks the best at, for that matter. And let's talk about that because what are some signs that the things are going in the right direction? So with my coach, when I was checking in with her, the reason she had me step away from the scale wasn't because we don't care about how I look. Girl, I do. It was because my photos, I was at the high 140s starting my prep, which was my big weight, quote unquote. That was my getting a little chunky kind of weight last year, at the beginning of the year. And then now it's my I don't even think of it that way. I just think, whoa, I look completely different. My midsection looks lean. My bottom half of my body, I've built muscle in my legs. And by the way, I want you to know, muscle's not something where like, whoa, you look like a bodybuilder within a few months. I wish. I saw someone make a post the other day that said, according to my DEXA, I built 4 pounds of muscle in 12 weeks. I'm like, well, you didn't, because that's impossible. The average woman who's training naturally, who's an intermediate to advanced lifter, is building 4 to 6 pounds of muscle a year. A year. Think of a pound of beef in a pack that you see at the store, okay? You go to the store and buy meat. It sounds weird, but think about that's 1 pound, right? Think about 4 pounds of that on your body. Pretty significant, especially if you're 5'3" or below, let's say. So yeah, I put on some muscle, but the body composition changed, but my body looks different. And let me tell you something. What was interesting too is like, I actually said to my coach, my hip circumference is the same, coach, from last year, but my glutes look more perky and just, I have more shapely glutes. And she's like, yeah, that's why we go by the photos. We don't even just go by the measurements, because last year your your hips have more fat around them. They have fat and muscle. It's not pure muscle. And I tend to store more body fat around my lower half of my body, but it's actually shifted a little bit. With more muscle that you build more of that metabolic activity in that area. So that's something I learned from my coach as well, is that like, you can't spot reduce fat, but if you have more muscle in your legs, you're going to be burning more body fat. You're going to have more metabolically active tissue in that area. You're going to store less fat there, which I thought was pretty cool. So it goes to show, same circumference booty, same weight, different shaped booty, and different looking waist, different looking body. So that's why we track everything. And by the way, if you're listening to this and thinking, oh my God, I am totally in disbelief because I've just been tracking this scale, no wonder I've been stuck. I've been married to a number on the scale. I'm trying to do my best. I'm not seeing changes. I don't know how to unpack this. This is what we do with our clients. This is what we do. We do the thinking and the planning and the strategy. So you just have to execute and you learn how to maintain that. So if you're spinning your wheels, you don't know why you're not getting results, stop spinning them. We can help you. Go to getsculpted.ca/contact and click on the link in our show notes. We'll leave it there too. Fill out an application. Tell us where you're at, what you're struggling with, what your challenges are, what you want to achieve, and we'll help craft a custom plan for you. All right, so I want to talk about the consequence of actually not changing what you're doing, and that is putting in the grind. You're putting in too much grind, the wrong kind of grind. What chronic dieting and living in this low calorie, like 1600 calories does, it keeps you stuck in like mediocre, quite frankly. You're not going to get overly like overweight. You're at your magic weight, but not your magic body. Like you're not looking like your hottest, best self, quite frankly. You're never building enough muscle. You are never going to actually be able to train enough or train hard enough and recover from it to get the amount of muscle that you want. And your metabolism is going to downregulate. Now it's getting used to maintaining at 1600 calories. And you don't want to be there. You want to get used to maintaining. By the way, now I'm eating 2300 calories and maintaining there. And I want to be here. Guess why? Because I am now learning to better utilize this fuel. And the lean out that I did served for that. So I want to talk about that as well. Actually, I want to backtrack because when you get lean first, which is important, okay, you can't be like have too much fat and eat too much because you're going to gain too much more fat. I got lean and then my body became more insulin sensitive. So the nutrients I was consuming, the food I was eating was more readily able to be partitioned toward building muscle. So now going from being lean and eating 1400 calories, I gradually up that while increasing my training intensity. I can better handle these 2300 calories. My body knows what to do with it, simply put. Okay. So there's more to this. So it's not just like eat more and keep going to F45. It's not going to work. You need to actually like get lean, eat more, and train hard. That's the recipe. So your consequence of not doing that is you're going to just stay stuck in like always losing and gaining the same 10 pounds and never seeing a change to your shape. Always having that slow metabolism that just keeps getting slower. By the way, the more times that you diet, you don't want to be in that place. You want to have a strong, healthy metabolism that tolerates more food. Your body knows what to do with the food. You're able to then cut and lean out and do like a mini cut. Again, you're not going to have to like upswing much, but like for me, if I want to get lean for the summer or like, look good for the photo shoot, 4 to 6 weeks of like a little bit of tightening up the calories, my body's going to respond so much better than doing if I even wanted to do another prep, I would be back to like responding well at 1800 calories or 1900 or maybe 2000 rather than 16, 17 or like below that or like 13 or 14. So this is why you're not seeing that shape. You don't have enough muscle and you've been under eating for years. You haven't been eating for the result of building muscle. You've been eating for the result of just cutting body fat. And you think that's the only thing that's going to get you toned. And if you've been doing random workouts on top of that, or you've been inconsistently training with the right intensity, or you've never trained with the right intensity, you're focusing on the wrong thing. You're focused on the number on the scale or even just the body fat thing, and you're not focused on building muscle. Muscle is going to help you be able to eat more because your body's going to know what to do with those nutrients. It's going to help you look better. It's going to help you not fear the scale because the scale's going in the right direction for a reason. And it's going to help you get that look that you want. I don't know any other way to say it. The toned body you want is at the other side of way more muscle. By now you're listening to this, you're still here. I give you the tough love. When I hear I have enough muscle, I don't know who you are. I don't care who you are. No, you don't. You don't have enough muscle. If you have only been ever grinding for natural muscle, and look, first of all, I've never met someone who has too much muscle, ever. I wouldn't even say that. And I'm the freaking most consistent person I know. If you're naturally trying to build muscle, you will never in your lifetime build too much muscle to look jacked. You got to earn that every day. Muscle is, what's that quote that's like, the rent is due, so your muscle, let me put it this way. Toned body is built, not bought. It's rented, not owed. And rent is due every day. That's the quote that I was thinking of. So you got to keep training hard. So I went off on a little tangent there, but my point is you don't have too much muscle and you need to build more of it. You need to keep grinding to keep it, by the way. And you're probably grinding in the wrong way, which is high reps and random workouts. And no, your F45 and Orange Theory classes don't count as muscle building. Okay, so what you're going to need to do that, because I don't want to just, I'm not poo-pooing on you here and saying what you're doing is wrong, but you're really underestimating what it really takes. You want to think of like your lean out phase and your muscle building phase or at least maintenance phase as a teeter totter, right? So right now I'm doing the symbol with my hands, but visualize this. You have a scale, like a back and forth, like a seesaw. And on one side is you leaning out, and on the other side is you spending time in intentional maintenance or slight surplus. If you've spent most of your year or years leaning out, you're teetering the scale in the wrong direction. Now your metabolism has downregulated and you haven't earned the right to lose more body fat. You have to earn that. You have to spend more and most and kind of mostly all of your time in maintenance, in that slight surplus at times, not all the time, to a certain extent. Bring back the scale in the right direction where you're tipping it to neutral, right? Because you don't want to be in a place where you need to diet on such low calories. You're going to be eating away muscle also. That's what you don't want to do. So really want to hammer this home. You're trying to build muscle or maintain it, and it's going to take a lot of grind. You need enough calories for that, like more than you think. How much of your year have you actually spent, if you really have to reflect on it, eating more than 2,000 calories a day? And let me tell you something. I'm not telling you to go do that tomorrow because I don't know you. I don't know how hard you're training. And most of the women who come to us are working out hard, but it's a different kind of hard. They're sweating a lot. They're doing many days and hours of training a week, right? Like 6 days a week, 7 days of Orange Theory and Peloton. It's not the same. You're fatiguing your body without the reward. I'm talking about you're in the set and lifting a heavy weight. You know how much to lift that's well beyond your body weight in some lifts. You're lifting with intention and intensity. That's when you earn those 200, 250, 300 grams of carbs a day. Your body better know how to use that, because if it doesn't, that's how you store it as body fat. So if you want to build your metabolic capacity, you really need to learn you need to understand how to train, how to eat and train for that result. And again, this is exactly what we do with our clients. So just to give you an idea of our process, we get you lean first. So you need to, we don't know how much weight you need to lose, right? We need to do a full intake assessment of your maintenance. We do a diet recall. So we see like, how much have you been eating? Not just how much you say you're eating or what you're eating, how much. Log it. Let's see 7 days of that. All right, we have an idea. Let's say you think you have 20 pounds to lose, you might have 30 or 40. And that's the reality, to get as lean as you want or need to. And then you become more responsive. Then we up your calories. Then we work on your metabolic capacity. Then we work on increasing you to the point that your new maintenance is much higher and you look leaner because you built the muscle and metabolism to maintain it. That's what metabolic resiliency is about. That's what building that metabolic capacity means. And by the way, you might think, I don't really want to eat more. Well, you know what that means in real practicality? It means you go out with your girlfriends and you're not afraid that the dinner at the keg is going to blow up your diet and your physique. You can have that extra dessert. You have that leeway because you've earned it. You've earned that goodwill with your metabolism by not undereating, not living in a deficit. Who would have thought that the body you wanted and the metabolism that you've been after is actually after eating more? So this is your take-home message. You need the real plan. And again, if you want help with this, if you want to explore even what that looks like, open the door to the conversation. GetSculpted.ca/contact. We're going to ask you a few questions about what you're doing, what you want to achieve, and we'll guide you, if it's appropriate, on like what that would look like to actually work through these phases together. So I hope you got some value from this. If you did, please give it a share. Give us a tag, Get Sculpted. Give me a tag at Coach Tijana Daily, and let us know if you want to talk more about this, because I could talk about this till the cows come home. This is a really good topic. So eat more, train hard, and we'll see you in the next one.